Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, TradersPro. Market conditions, bullish in a bull market still continuing at that overall trend, working our way to the upper end range of that trend currently, which is a good thing. We've been talking about a possible resistance area running into right here at about that 430 area on SPY. We're touching that now. We will look at that SPY chart here in just a minute. We've had a little bit of a gap above that, and we'll see how we get some fall, if we get any follow through on that today. We also have momentum moving nicely to the upper end of that range. That's fine for it to be up here. Remember that extreme sometimes will, pause. It'll move back and forth. If we can get a move back inside that buy zone, that's a continuation move where we can then continue to buy the dips on any pullbacks that we see with this kind of a setup right here. Breadth, still not super strong, but moving in the right direction, which is what we want. One of the things I noticed this morning on the indexes tab is that the Dow Jones transports and industrials are both leading right here in terms of rank. Now, remember that rank is the average of the total stocks in the group. So if there's not many stocks in the group and they're all doing well, then it's going to bump that up a little bit higher. But it all happened relatively quickly. We saw last week where we had these small cap stocks that were leading based on rank, and now we've seen industrials and transports kind of leapfrog up over everything else and now towards the top of their range. The Dow Jones itself, so the Dow has been lagging a little bit. If we look at DIA, and in terms of lagging the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, it had a nice move earlier than the rest, but now it's maybe getting some confirmation on that Dow. We'll see how that looks. Let's look at SPY, and that pattern you can see is already continuing higher. That's the S&P 500 versus the NASDAQ 100 has had a nice move higher as well. NASDAQ is running right up into this upper range. You've got some resistance here, so a tight consolidation in tech, but you've got a really nice bullish profile. So you've got a bullish profile on tech. You've got a bullish profile on the SPY. It's bumped up into that extreme, but not too far. This is that pattern that I was mentioning. It kind of jumped up above that resistance area. And we've got a support area here. If we decide to, the market pulls back into that range and find some support, we could get a bounce or we could continue that move higher. Just remember that once that gets into these upper extreme ranges, it just means an unsustainable trend where you get maybe a pop like this, and then it's got to move sideways for a couple of days, and then kind of gather some steam to be able to move forward and get some new demand. That's kind of the situation that we're sitting at right now. So bullish conditions still in this market right now. We've got some nice biotech, medical stocks here this morning. AM. You've got TJX retail. Interesting chart pattern there as well. I'm just going to refresh this to make sure we're updated here. And muscle stocks, new buy list. And then I can just go down here and look at a couple of these. Actually, yeah, because that didn't look quite right. There we go. AMAM. The new buys here. OLMA. This is a smooth looking pattern. Just really smooth when you have these patterns where you can see just how tight that pattern is on the upside, how tight that pattern is on the upside, versus a lot of ups and downs, up and downs. You'll see stocks that come in and they have just really choppy, volatile patterns. This is not one of those. It's got some volatility, but it's smooth volatility. It's also dealing with a breakout now. It had a big move here, 20%. I've mentioned that before. When a stock goes to 20% or has a big 10, 15, 20 percent day, if it's up in this upper extreme, it may need a little bit of a pause. This is still relatively early, and it's got a breakout. So you actually might see some continuation on OLMA today. We'll keep an eye on that. As far as risk management, ideally we like to have a stop loss below that confirmation bar or that signal bar. That's a 20% stop. So if that's too wide for your risk management, then you could either have a little bit tighter stop or less shares, or wait for it to pull back and give you a little bit different risk profile on that particular stock. Let's move on to the next couple. This is also a nice stock that has done really well in the last year, up 135% in the last year, and has had this pause. You can see during that uptrend, really nice looking smooth uptrend. It stayed green and yellow for the most part. You get a reversal signal, some volatility obviously happening through here. But remember, when I draw this chart, sometimes I like to just take this chop and just get rid of it, okay, and look at the chart pattern as of right now. And that's what we want to focus on. Is we want to focus on the green, and focus on the green as it's trending higher. Pardon me. And try and avoid this as much as possible. We just want to be focusing on trends while they're heading higher, while they're working. Once they stop working, now obviously you have some areas back here where it turned yellow. Could have adjusted a stop loss or exited a position back on those. But now we obviously don't know what the future holds. That's the hardest part of trading. Is obviously you can't predict the future, but in this case, this has a setup that we're looking for. Market conditions are bullish. Technology is also bullish, and you've got a confirmation bar signal here, setting right at support also on that. So that's the kind of stock to be looking for in these market conditions, ones that are working, that had been moving higher and then had a little bit of a pause, but are now starting to find some of that demand again. Let's see what else we have here. Rounding out the top 5, ROIV, also possible breakout. Let's look at a year-long chart on that. This is another nice looking chart for potential breakout pattern, because here's our highs from the prior level. You've got this entire reversal now. It's been working its way higher with a potential breakout above that. On a stock like this, when it has that potential to move from 3 to 10, and now it's gone from 6 back to 10, it may have a little bit of, may need a little bit of retracement there to create that cup and a handle pattern, and then you get a breakout. But nonetheless, it's definitely one to keep in a watch list. Add that to the watch list and see where that ends up going here in the next few days. That'll do it for our update today. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic day.